Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Vandeputte. My time-lapse photography and this channel is time-lapse tutorials. In this video, I will be demonstrating how I use LRTimelapse and Lightroom Classic to color grade a so-called Holy Grail sequence. Not only color grading, but I'm editing it as well. A Holy Grail sequence is a time-lapse shot where the sun is setting or rising, and you have to adjust your exposure live as you're shooting. Now, what happens when you do that on certain cameras is that you get this exposure flickering, which is super distracting and annoying and ugly, and that's what we'll be removing today. The other reason I'm making this video is because I've got a new filming setup and I want to try out how this looks on YouTube and to see if the quality is good enough. So what we will be editing today is the moonrise, the snow moonrise from 2 days ago. A snow moon, I don't know what it is. It signifies like the start of spring or something, but we had a full moon and I shot it from the back of our building because I had a clear view of the horizon. Now I messed up, I screwed up because I used a piece of kit that I hadn't properly used before. This is a very cheap X2 extender. It's by Viltrox. You mount it between your camera, which is a 6D Mark II, and your lens, which is a 7200 f2.8 lovely lens. I mounted it in between, which extends my focal length to 140 to 400 millimeters. Now sadly, somehow the footage got really crappy later on in the shot. The first image, as you can see, is like acceptable. It's not great. It's far from great actually, but it's sharp-ish, right? If we scroll just a bit further, just a few minutes later, the footage looks horrible. So instead of letting that go to waste, I figured I might as well make a demo out of it and show you how I fix it, or at least how I deflicker it and make the most out of it, right? So let's begin. This is Lightroom Classic. Let's assume that we've already offloaded our footage, etc., into a folder called Moonrise Tele Raw. It's got 500 photos in it. First photo looks like that, and the last photo looks like this. Bit of a mess. In between that, the moon rises. And one of the issues you would have here is that this moon is fully blown out, right? I'm far from the best moon shooter, but I managed to keep it all in there. Then we have LRTimelapse. Now, LRTimelapse I've been using for about 9 years now. It's come a long, long way. Go to the folder containing the footage, the photos, a sequence of raw files. The first thing you'll see it do is it loads the directory and is going to initialize the sequence. What this means is it's going to generate a average brightness curve of the whole sequence, and you'll see that reflected as a blue curve that generates once it reads the average brightness of these raw files, right? Because I was shooting it in the manual Holy Grail method that I've been doing for years and years, that means that you adjust your exposure in between photos. So it's clicking every, say, 6 seconds, and in those 6 seconds, when you notice your photos are getting too dark, you want to, oops, let's turn off visual previews. You want to adjust your settings by 1/3 of a stop, so one click of the wheel. And that's these clicks that are generated here. So the brightness went up, and then because the sun setting goes down again, and then went up because I changed my setting, and then it went down again. And that's what creates this zigzag curve you see. If you play that, it looks horrendous. Obviously, it flickers like crazy because we induced that flickering. It doesn't look good. And that's what LRTimelapse removes, that flickering, but also different kinds of flickering, and it allows you to change your settings like exposure and white balance from beginning to end. It allows you to animate gradients, etc. as well. It's super powerful software, and I'm actually doing a giveaway of one of these copies or one of the licenses for the software via my newsletter soon. So if you want to win that, sign up to my newsletter. The link is down below. Now, first steps first. There's this tab here at the top that you can just follow. I hit Keyframes Wizard. Sadly, there's no actual wizard popping up. That would be cool, but you get this little bar instead that allows you to set a number of keyframes. Let's just go with 5. And as you can see, that's generated these blue diamond or kind of like turned square keyframes. They're here as well. These orange keyframes are the ones that are automatically detected from me adjusting the settings. That's important because it needs to counteract that change later on. Let's just set these keyframes first, then you click the Holy Grail Wizard and you get these orange curves, or this orange curve rather, that is the exact opposite of the blue curve. Now this should be a giveaway. This is going to cancel out those changes that I applied to the sequence as I was shooting, right? The point here is to get this as close to the middle as possible, so let's just kind of call it that. And then you hit save, and now it's going to save metadata files, little XMP sidecar files. I'm already in Lightroom with the sequence, so I don't have to drag the sequence into Lightroom. But what I have to do now in Lightroom is select all the photos, and let me drag my keystrokes here so you can follow along. Select all the files, right-click, metadata, and then I read metadata from files. What's happening behind the scenes is, this is the sequence of raw photos. LRTimelapse has generated these XMP files. If you open them up with a text editor, you'll see that they're just numerical changes to the sequence, as in like this photo needs 0.1 stop more exposure change, for example. Not relevant. What is relevant is this sequence. As it's reading the XMP metadata, I'm going here and selecting LRT5 keyframes. This will only show those 4 starred keyframes, and it's still reading the metadata, so they'll appear one by one. Those are these blue keyframes. So the square ones are the 4-star keyframes. If you look at the full sequence, it has these orange ones, which happen around these zigzag pattern peaks. These orange curved ones are the other keyframes, where the light or the exposure has changed. We won't be editing those. We'll only be editing the blue keyframes. And the way I'm editing them is just very straightforward. I'm not going to spend too much time on them right now. I'm also not working on a great monitor, so it's not color accurate what I'm doing at all. I'm just demonstrating how this flow works, right? So say I've just edited that. I select that photo, and holding Shift, I click on the last photo, and then at the top, you go to that little script icon and go to LRTimelapse sync keyframes. Boom. And now it syncs that edit to the rest of the sequence. Here is my concern. The moon is blown out. So from the second photo, I hit D, and it's already looking absolute trash, which is so sad, but whatever. You drop your highlights a little bit, and then you shift click again, and then on the next photo, I'll drop the highlights another 10 points. So that the moon, if we compare that to 0 or minus 20 on the highlights, you know, shows more of its facade. And then you just repeat that process, and here I'm going to go down to minus 30, and you see that's a big difference there already. Highlights minus 30 versus 0, that moon visibility is different. Once more, sync the keyframes, and then that's done. Then you select all these photos, right-click, metadata, save metadata to files. That happens quickly because it's only 5 photos. Go back to LRTimelapse, and now you hit the reload button. And what do you know? It recognizes that there's been some changes to these blue keyframes, right? But what about the photos in between? They need to be adjusted as well. Otherwise, we'll have these weird pumps in exposure on just those keyframe photos. So if you hit the auto transition button, it calculates what has to happen to the photos in between those keyframes, and it takes into account these changes as well that have to happen to all the other photos where I changed the settings. So this algorithm is really, really cool and really awesome. Well done, Gunther, the developer of LRTimelapse. And now, in theory, I can export this already because it's applied all the settings to all the photos, and I just make a video file now. Now, because it takes a while to export from raw files to a video file, and you kind of have to commit to it, you can generate a quick preview. With visual previews, as soon as you enable that, it starts to generate a pink curve. And this will take a while, so we're just going to let that run in the back. But this pink curve is another representation of your brightness, and depending on your system, this will be a fast or a slow process, and you can see the Adobe DNG converter converting these raw files to new preview files. They're low resolution. You get a little estimate of how long this takes as well. But yeah, this usually takes a while, and this is only 500 sequence, so that's not a lot. Now, as soon as that's done, I think we can actually play a preview right now as well already, but that's just going to bog down the whole system, so let's not do that. As soon as that's done, we get a preview, a low-resolution preview to see how the sequence looks, to see if we need to adjust stuff more, like maybe change the highlights more. If there's flickering, we can use it to deflicker and stuff as well. but I won't be going over that in this video. I will be showing you the visual deflicker method, which is an extra step that removes any flickering based on this smoothness curve. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's, for now, let this run for a bit. There we have it. So the visual preview has rendered and is ready to be previewed. What a surprise. Now, I can already tell there's kind of like a couple of bumps and jumps in there, so it's probably not going to be the smoothest. Also, the camera actually moved, because when shooting on long lenses on a carpet surface, it's not ideal. Look, doesn't look horrible. That's a decent enough shot. Still a little bit of flickering though, which we can see in these little, bumps and stuff on there. So there's two ways to deflicker in LRTimelapse. You can draw a reference frame, which will look at just the frame to deflicker stuff, or you can, that's something for another video, or you can just hit the visual deflicker button, and then you get this green curve, and then you can drag that to be as smooth or as non-smooth as you want. Let's just go with this 10 value and hit apply, and now it's going to process the visual previews based on the new visual previews, and then it's gonna deflicker them again. Et voila, we have a new preview. Let's hit play again. Despite the wiggle in the shot, this looks pretty good. This blocking is because of it's a low res preview, but any flickering will show up quite apparently in there. But yeah, that looks good. Now this has to be rendered. This has to be turned into a video file, because currently it still is a sequence of raw photos with that little metadata file tacked on the side. Now there's a couple of ways you can do this, and actually using LRTimelapse and Lightroom Classic to export is not my preferred way, but I'll explain how it works. You go back to Lightroom Classic, you make sure you see the full sequence, you right click on the photos, and then you read the metadata from the files to make sure that they're up to date with the latest edit that has happened in Lightroom LRTimelapse. I keep confusing these names. So you read all this metadata. As you can see, this can take a while. Then you're gonna export them using the built-in LRTimelapse export preset. Now, depending on which license you have, you can use JPEGs or TIFFs in 8 or 16 bits. There's pros and cons to both. I talk about them in my ebook, The Ultimate Time-Lapse Guide, and I would use, for the highest quality, the original resolution, the TIFF files at 16-bit, but that's only in the Pro license. Now, I am giving away a license to LRTimelapse via my newsletter soon, so if you want to have a chance to win that, sign up to the newsletter. Link is down below. Anyways, what this is going to do is it's going to generate intermediary files from the raw files that we shot in camera, the .cr2 files on a Canon, for example, turn those into the TIFF files or the JPEG files, and then LRTimelapse is going to grab these intermediary files and turn them into a high-resolution video file. Now, I don't export this way. I export using After Effects, which I also explain in my ebook, The Ultimate Time-Lapse Guide. But, you can do whatever you want. If you don't have After Effects or you're not familiar with After Effects, you can use this export method. There's other programs that can render as well, like Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve, which I'll be making some videos about soon. But yeah, I just wanted to show you how I turned quite a crappy sequence into something slightly less crappy. Let me know if you want to see a video about this, what's it called? Viltrox CAF2X2 Tele Plus converter. I'm kind of sad that I used it without testing it properly on this moonrise. But hey, there's going to be other moonrises, obviously. Next time, I don't think I'll be shooting it with that though, because yeah, it's just a bit annoying. And look, that's it for this video. I wanted to test the new filming setup. I've got, this is for unboxings and overview shots. I've got the main camera like that. I've got the editing camera with the screen. It's all controlled via OBS that we have been using for the live streams. So each Friday, I'm live streaming, time-lapse editing, reviewing the week's time-lapse footage, and you can join. You can come hang out. You can drink coffee, tea, or a beer, whatever it is that you want to drink while I edit stuff live. It's pretty fun. If you don't want to miss it, turn on post notifications. You hit the bell button, I think, and then turn on all notifications for the channel. And that's pretty much it. If you have any other content you would like to see, let me know. I'm now that I've got this new filming setup ready, I can pump out a lot more. The reason I built it out is for my upcoming video course, so I can be very, very efficient in recording tutorials. So you'll get the benefit of that as well. Anyways, that's all for now. I'll finish with the final shot of the moonrise, despite it being noisy and blurry. It's still, you know, the end result of this shoot. So hope you enjoy that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.